Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Richard Panafleck, to address you. Minister Panafleck, you have the floor. Minister Panafleck, can you kindly unmute your mic, please?
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to the members of the media, my esteemed colleagues of the Council of Ministers, and the people of St. Martin. As of yesterday, October 13, 9 additional persons have tested positive for COVID-19. However, there was a recovery of 13 persons, bringing the total active cases to 52. The total number of confirmed cases is now 719. CPS are monitoring 49 people in home isolation. 3 patients are hospitalized at St. Martin Medical Center, and the total number of deaths due to COVID-19 remains at 22. The number of people recovered since the first case surfaced on St. Martin has increased to 645. 81 people are in quarantine based on contact tracing investigation. In an effort to further control the spread of virus, CPS tested 1,123 travelers arriving at the Princess Juliana Airport and 4,713 persons throughout the community. I would like to encourage all to practice living a healthier lifestyle, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Stay active by going for a brisk walk or jogging outside in uncrowded areas. Make it a habit to eat more nutritious food, such as dark leaf greens, fruits, and fresh herbs. Take time to take care of yourself and suggest the same to family and friends. Get adequate sleep. This affects the way you function during the day. Continuously take daily vitamins to boost your immune system, and throughout meditation and relaxation, you can positively promote overall wellness. I would also like to convey that talks has started with the medical professionals to see how we can reform the healthcare system on St. Martin. Lately, we have heard that there are some general practitioners that are reaching the pensioners' age, and we are looking into it and working together with them to make sure that we have sufficient and continuously have sufficient medical professionals on the island to take care of our people. I would like to thank you for this time.
Thank you, Minister Panafleck, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, the Honorable Egbert Duran, to address you. Minister Duran, you have the floor.
Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague ministers, members of the media, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Today, I wish to share the following points with you. I am pleased to inform the general public that the removal of 111 car wrecks have been completed. As you know, the Department of Infrastructure Management executed an island-wide inspection on abandoned car wrecks that are on public roads and in public areas. The wrecks have been placed on the Irma landfill to be crushed and exported for recycling purposes. The majority of those wrecks have already been exported. In the meantime, since the countrywide cleanup, it has been brought to my attention that residents have resorted into placing these wrecks onto the public roads and public spaces. I would like to urge residents to refrain from such actions and to inform them that such actions will be brought to the attention of the St. Martin Police Force, who will be dealing with this accordingly. This cleanup is of a great achievement for the ministry, and I would like to thank the staff of the Department of Infrastructure Management, the community police officers, and the designated contractors and all stakeholders involved for their diligence. In relation to the electrical inspection form, I would like to announce that the official launch of the digital electrical inspection form online. The project is a part of an existing effort to transition the ministry services online. The digital process will operate slightly different as it requires electricians to register the electrical inspection on a portal in order to obtain an e-login. The digital process enables the electricians to start their registration process by going to the link which will be published on the government webpage and conduct the entire process digitally. This can be found on the stmartingov.org website /electrical inspections. The link will also be shared on the Facebook page of the Ministry of Roaming. Recently, the electrical inspectors completed a training of the software and a portal that they will be utilizing to conduct the scope of their work. The inspectors were provided with the new digital IT tablets by the ICT Department of Government. The launch of this project recognizes the remarkable steps towards joining the world's advanced digitized methods of conducting services for the ministry. However, the ministry acknowledged a rapid transition may require more informative demonstrations for persons to become more acquainted and well-versed in the new way forward. The department therefore plans to release a how-to video of the process and will schedule a week in November whereby electricians will have the opportunity to partake in a brief demonstration and to also obtain assistance for the registration. As of December 30th, 2020, the digital process will be the sole method that is accepted. Electricians will temporarily be accommodated in person in the interim until the suggested cutoff date. On another note, I would like to inform the general public that during many of my interviews, I have expressed my vision to bring life to Phillipsburg. Pertaining to this vision, I would like to now present you with the following. I've embarked on a project to bring life into Phillipsburg with the construction of 114 quality residential units, a green area, a new parliament building, a government building that will house the other government services that are all over and spread out, commercial units, and a parking garage. For many years, the lack of affordable housing has been a major concern within the community. The situation has worsened during the economic impact after the passings of Hurricane Irma and Maria in 2017. Many residents communicated their discontent to me pertaining to the lack of affordable housing. Thus, this is an urgent demand for affordable housing. On numerous occasions, the union has also made reference to this matter of concerns for their members. My plan is to develop residential unit with an improved infrastructure in Phillipsburg consisting of duplex homes on the Walter Nisbet Road on the location of the current parking lots near the police station and the old government building. The section of the project will consist of 70 residential unit, 2-bedroom duplex will comprise of a ground floor parking. On the location of the former post office, I plan to develop residential towers. This section of the project consists of 44 residential units, 1 and 2 bedrooms. Additionally, the towers will consist of 18 commercial units with a green area and parking. The project will not solely consist of quality residential units, however, in the intention to develop a 4-story facility which will house the Parliament of St. Martin and other government services, as mentioned. The ground level will consist of a commercial area. The first and second floor will consist of a public parking garage. The fourth floor is intended to accommodate the Parliament building, thus, and the government services, which will include a central open area. This facility will be constructed in the location of the old government building, which is still pending to be demolished. With an environmental aspect in mind, I wish to have a sort of a central park area at the front of the facility near the newly constructed area for a bus station, taxi dispatch, tour bus, and turnaround area with covered craft market, which will consist of a free-thrown trolley service. An additional building will be constructed which incorporates public vendors on the ground floor and restaurants and offices on the first and second floor. With government's continuous efforts to reduce expenses, increase its revenues, and refinance its debt, I believe that in this vision to make the development project possible for the people of St. Martin, and I'm therefore working tirelessly to ensure that this becomes a success. By creating much needed liquidity, I will steer the country in the right direction. In addition to the government financing, I intend to explore private financing. I have had several meetings with the Minister of Finance, as well as with the Council of Ministers, and we are exploring these options. The increase in unemployment rate has brought this necessity to create jobs for our community. In the process of this development, I plan to invite local architects to submit their concepts for their vision of the development of Phillipsburg. As Minister of Public Housing, I am My aim is to provide the community with adequate and affordable housing based on the current research. I will continue to discuss with the relevant stakeholders on this matter as it is vital importance for our country's economy and our further development. This will be all for now, Ms. Roach, and I thank you and I look forward to any questions that members of the media might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Silveira Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister Jacobs, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to my colleague ministers and members of the press. Ms. Roach, I mentioned that before, and those listening and viewing via whichever medium, thank you so much for joining us. I would first, Ms. Roach, like to take this moment to extend condolences to all those families, those persons who are still suffering from the loss of loved ones, whether it be COVID related or not. There are several in our community suffering also on different levels. And I would like you to know that the Council of Ministers and myself and my family continue to hold us all in prayer as we go through the daily struggles of life in our new reality. As many may know by now, seeing the great viewership that was expressed on Monday, starting on Saturday, October 10th, the Commemoration of Constitution Day commenced with a live national address delivered by His Excellency, the Governor of St. Martin, Dr. Anders Eugene B. Holliday, which was in front of the courthouse where the inaugural ceremony was actually held on 10/10/10. The Governor of St. Martin also unveiled a plaque placed in commemoration of the occasion of 10 years of country status and dedicated it to the people of St. Martin. This is on the square right in front of the courthouse, so many can pass by there and visit and see. Also on October 10th, 2020, the 10th anniversary of St. Martin becoming a country within the kingdom and thereby gaining autonomous status and becoming an equal partner with Aruba, Curacao, and Netherlands, including the public entities Bonaire, Statia, and Saba within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. In addition to what we put forth on October 12th, starting at 10 a.m. with the addresses of His Excellency, the Chairman of Parliament, and myself, we also held interviews with key players in the quest for separate status as per the People's Choice in 2000. Many may think that this is a one-time thing, but based on the information that was disseminated on Monday, the 12th of October, many are now much more aware of the struggles that took place for up to 20 years and more prior to St. Martin achieving its autonomous status. And though we might not be happy with the achievements and feel that we could have done much more in the past 10 years, it is clear that the struggle to get there and what we achieved on that day brought about a complete change for St. Martin. A complete change in the fact that we are still building our systems that were not existent prior to 10/10/10. Human resources remain a serious problem, which we are assessing and ensuring that we have the best we can with limited resources and ensuring that we can do the necessary investments. So as we work together within our community, I look forward to further dialogue within the community on where we are now and where we want to be in the next 10 years. As such, we will continue to do our necessary due diligence as it relates to getting input from the population on our national development vision, which will lead to the National Development Plan. We've taken note of the governor's statements about an emergency meeting and will assess how that fits into the discussions already being had with our population regarding the National Development Vision. And if that is something that is supposed to be done separately to what we are already in our trajectory doing, then that will be entertained, as we definitely want as much input as possible, as much buy-in as possible in order that we can achieve what we know we can for this country. We have heard also the cry of the youth, their dissatisfaction, as well as many others on our progress as it stands now. And we all know by now what has led to this. The question is, what are we prepared to do from here on in? The realities of where we are, the realities of the democratic deficit within our system of government. And whilst we enjoy many, many freedoms, as it is clear we are still very much beholden to the stronger of the kingdom partners and still have, based on agreements to certain consensus laws some 10 years ago, much, let's say, accounting to do to them and much more dependence on them than we would like. So as we stand here today, I put it out to the general population that the USM also, the University of St. Martin, congratulations to them as well, having just signed with UWI in collaborating to bring much needed programs to St. Martin from the Caribbean partners, which is a great opportunity, as we must continue to forge tighter relations with our Caribbean partners and of course with our partners across the border. So as we continue to deliberate, I ask you to tune in to all these panel discussions. Those of you that have an interest to contribute, there is that opportunity to visit our NDV, contact the Department of BUC, Ms. Angelique Gomes as the department head, as they are continuously working on ensuring that we get as much input as possible. And if need be, and we must hold a more in-depth meeting with the people of St. Martin, that will be done, of course, taking into consideration our current realities with COVID-19. We are also in constant discussions, deliberations back and forth to be able to have open discussions with our kingdom partners on the way forward. The Minister of Finance has been in constant discussion with the CFT, and we are busy trying to formulate that we get a topic on the agenda for the new proposed date of the Kingdom Council of Ministers, which is to be called hopefully Friday, and if not Friday, then on October 30th, to deal with pending issues from last week that were not dealt with. So that we were notified that there's a new Kingdom of Council of Ministers meeting scheduled for Friday. We have not yet received the agenda for such, and we are attempting to have at least one agenda point added so that St. Martin can further discuss with the Netherlands moving forward, especially as it relates at this moment to our loans and bonds. I have no further updates at this moment from the Ministry of General Affairs, but I would like to, before signing off, Ms. Roach, thank and commend the Departments of Culture under the Ministry of ECYS and the Department of Communications falling within General Affairs for their exceptional work in putting the, let's call it, documentary together that would give much information for generations to come. Based on the fact that so much information was gathered leading up to Monday's celebration, we have also concluded that there will be more opportunities for the general public to hear the entire interviews of each of those key persons that played a role in St. Martin attaining its country status, as well as all the others that we were not able to include at this time. We will also like to include the youth expressions and others. So continue to tune in and look forward and contribute, because your voice is valid and together we can forge a bigger, better, stronger St. Martin. In our efforts to continue to diminish the effects of COVID-19 on St. Martin, I continue to pledge and ask the people of St. Martin to keep up the great work that we are doing in ensuring the safety of all within our families, within our communities, out and about in the businesses and stores that we visit, public offices, etc. I commend the businesses for keeping the regulations at a very high standard. I ask for total compliance from the population to the regulations that have been set forth by the ministries of TEAT and VSA, and ask that we continue to work together, keeping the necessary social distance. I know that at times we want to get closer to each other, and I have seen a few instances myself which can lead to a dangerous super spreading event. Please avoid crowds, stay the necessary 1.5 to 2 meters from each other, proper face mask usage, hand washing, and respiratory etiquette. Limit as much as possible physical contact. This is still the only way that we can diminish the effects of COVID-19 on our population. We are seeing the numbers diminishing to some extent with recoveries, but every other day there is still another jump in new infections. We would like as much as possible to avoid those. And let us all work together to make St. Martin safe, for us to become more healthy, and that we can beat COVID-19 and grow our economy in the best interest of all concerned. Thank you, and I look forward to any further questions from the media.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. Thank you for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session. However, before we begin, I would like to inform that the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication, the Honorable Ludmila de Weaver, as well as the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Anna Richardson, and the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Artwell Edion, are all present. However, will not be making any opening statements, but is available for any questions the media may have. The floor is now open, and I would like to invite Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald. You have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika, and a very good morning to all of the ministers present and everyone in the forum. My first question is to Minister Irian. Good morning, Minister. The Committee for Financial Supervision, in a letter to you on Monday, have indicated that the 75 million guilder bond is basically illegal and done without permission, and they would like it rescinded. What will government do? What is your comments on this, and what would be the next step?
Thank you. Good morning to the Honorable Council of Ministers, the media, to those viewing by all different forms of media. I would like to first state, I don't believe that they mentioned that it was illegal. So, I saw a couple of headlines out in different articles out this morning on CFTA says no, illegal and so forth. So I would caution the media to really, especially when translating from Dutch to English, to use the correct words when addressing certain things, I would say. Article 16, and is also, in addition to that, it's a bit of the articles from the CFTA, it's very vague. They don't go into detail on why not and so forth. But they mentioned Article 16. Article 16 of the Kingdom Act of Financial Supervision of Curacao and St. Martin stipulates the rules and procedures to attract loans for capital expenditures, which we are adhering to. The bond that is floated now is to cover the costs for government operations, including social services. We have the food voucher program, for example, that the Minister of VSR already mentioned, and in addition to a lot of other issues we are facing due to this pandemic. We are seeking financing also for the cost to execute these programs and to continue to support programs within SRP, like income and unemployment. Again, these are not capital expenditure loans and do not fall under Article 16 of the Kingdom Act Financial Supervision. The statement from the CFTA that the float of the bond would be in violation of the Article 16 of the Kingdom Act is therefore 100% inaccurate. Yesterday evening, I also confronted the CFTA, sent a letter to the CFTA on this matter, and we also requested clarification on this statement. What we don't want is misinformation being spread out through the media as any, I'm not stating this, but as any form of a scare tactic or whatever, especially knowing that we are proceeding with the floating of the bond. In addition to that, I have a responsibility towards this country and its people. As a consequence, I must seek solutions to meet that responsibility. In addition to that, there is a unanimous motion that has been passed by Parliament where it states that the entity as it is, the Parliament did not approve to proceed. So in that scenario, I have to look for every other possibility and alternative in the meantime, while still having discussions and meeting the conditions and so forth, to make sure this country continues to operate and we meet our obligations. We continue to work on meeting the conditions set by the Kingdom government. In fact, we submitted the most recent calculations last week and are awaiting a response from the CFTA. But in absence of advice or the positive advice from the Secretary CoM by the CFTA and a decision to proceed with the liquidity of the loans, I, as Minister of Finance, cannot sit idly by, as stated before, and we have ensured to follow the right requirements and follow the right procedures to float a bond.
Thank you, Minister Edion, and thank you, Judy, for the question. I would now like to invite Bibi Shah of SMN News. You have the floor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, ministers, good morning, colleagues. I'll pick it up right there with Minister Edion. Minister, I fully agree with your statements regarding the letter from the CFT, but I would like to ask you to go a little bit deeper. You said yesterday you confronted the CFT based on their statements. How can the CFT mention an article which today you are saying it is not accurate? It does not apply to what you're doing based on the bond that you want to float. But like you said, you approached them yesterday or confronted them yesterday. What did they say? And did they give you any verbal or written response to your query?
Thank you for your question, Ms. Shah. Yes, so we sent the email out last night after receiving their email requesting that they clarify their statements, right? Especially knowing that I knew I would wake up this morning inside all over the media again, and they had the opportunity to clarify this clearly in their letter. Article 16 clearly states we're not allowed to borrow for capital expenditures. We're not borrowing for capital expenditure, we're borrowing for liquidity. Second of all, Article 25 already passed with the initial budget allows us to deviate. Right. It also doesn't state how much we're allowed to deviate by, and a couple other stuff. So we are, as Minister of Finance, I have requested this information from CFTA for them to clarify their statements. It would have actually been better that if the CFTA contacted me directly instead of going to the media and personally ask the ministry, what is this bond for that you are floating, right? Instead of saying you cannot float a bond for capital expenditure, which we are not doing. The request for capital expenditure did already go to CFTA. We already put in a request from the 2019 bond that we already got approval from CFTA in 2019, but Hall did not subscribe to. We did put in that request, which they know already, I believe about 2 weeks ago, for capital expenditure. And we put in a request for the refinancing of another bond that was issued in 2010. For the refinancing of that bond. So we put in official requests and advice on for CFTA on these two matters, the bond 2019 and the refinancing of the bond. I believe that yesterday I had a live conference with the World Bank. They had a kind of conference yesterday on debt restructuring and so forth with different finance ministers in the world, economists and persons from the central bank, the World Bank. And it would be very, the Netherlands would be the one of the very few lenders in the world that would not refinance a bond, especially after this pandemic. Every lender in the world is restructuring loans, deferring payments and so forth, at least deferring capital or interest only, including China. So the Netherlands would really be the only country in the world, I believe, that would not want to refinance a bond, especially to a small island state, a kingdom partner, given the pandemic, and we had the hurricane in 2017, and the CFTA also advised in their advice of September 8th that St. Martin would need refinancing on their bond. So given that, we did put in this request about 2 weeks ago for the refinancing of a bond that was floating in 2010, far from when I was here, and for the capital expenditure of 2019. But like I said, in addition to that, and while the discussions are happening and ongoing with the Netherlands, We have to secure the funds for this country, and that is in addition to what Parliament requested of us to find liquidity for the country.
Thank you, Minister Edion, and thank you, Bibi, for the question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cerulean of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Prime Minister, ministers, colleagues. Good morning to you as well. As it pertains to the announcement of the minister from me pertaining to life in Phillipsburg, he mentioned that private financing will be explored for the project. Has it been ascertained, Minister, as to how much will this project cost? And what is the time frame for the start of the project?
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you for your question. With respect to how much the project will cost, we are still busy playing with the numbers because as I mentioned, it's affordable quality homes. So we want to really make it just that, affordable, and not social or anything like that. Because when people hear that government is involved in a project, they always think, social housing. This is affordable quality homes. I'm trying my best to make it as affordable as possible. So I would not like to release any numbers at this point. With respect to exploring private-public partnerships, that is indeed the case. And today is to serve as an introduction to the plans. And in a subsequent release, everything will be highlighted and defined. I will hold a separate press conference to break down everything so that the general public can be informed on how we plan to move forward with this. As I indicated, this is the ways that we are using to stimulate the economy because, of course, we know that tourism is our main pillar and there's a lot of unemployment now. And once you get the construction booming, it will definitely see that domino effect that will trickle down into the community.
So, Rolika, may I also interject? The minister also mentioned that we also had meetings prior to this in terms of finance and so forth. But I believe one part that the minister forgot to mention that even up to last night he was discussing, the minister has taken the opportunity to start research, because I remember the time he came to me, he questioned what is affordable, and everyone is showing out numbers on affordable housing. And he came with that question to me, and I said that's a good question, and I think that should be a premise on build the pricing for these houses. And the minister has started the research on what is affordable for St. Martin. Every country has a different level of affordable based on income from individuals. So I know the minister has started that process. To add to the question from Mr. Cerulean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Thank you, Minister Duran, and thank you, Stephen, for the question. I would now like to invite Jeffrey, Dr. Sox Cochran of Island 92 Radio. You have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Rolika, and good morning to everyone who is in attendance today. I'd like to pose a question to Minister of Tourism, Minister of TIAT, Minister De Wever, if I might. Minister, a while ago, there was a big discussion about medical insurance being required that covered COVID as a possible requirement for visitors that were coming to the island, similar to what was done in Aruba. First, is that still in discussion? If it is, if we have visitors that have medical insurance that follows them around the globe, will they be able to use that insurance versus purchasing additional insurance just for their visit to St. Martin? In other words, when they upload their test results, can they also upload proof of medical coverage that follows them around the globe? And I guess tangentially to this topic, how does this all relate to the returning visitors that we'll be having from the yachting community as they return to the island for this season? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Dr. Stock, for the question. Good morning, colleagues, members of the press, and viewing and listening public. Thank you for that point of clarification. I believe about 2 weeks ago, Ms. Fitzpatrick and I started a media storm when it came to that question being asked. And 2 weeks ago, when I was asked, I did clarify that it was still in discussion with the same persons that prepared this insurance for Aruba. It is still, the discussion is still ongoing. Of course, we were waiting to get a few more details, and especially on the pricing of the insurance. And what I can tell the public is this: the price originally started at $135 for the average of a weekly stay. This is in Aruba. It went down about 3 weeks, a month ago, to $70, and now the price is now at $30, regardless of the length of your stay. What the decrease in the price is telling you is that the larger the pool becomes, the lower the cost is. The cost still covers medical evacuation to the US. And again, to clarify, it is still under discussion. Now, when it comes to a person having sufficient coverage from their insurance that follows them around the globe, as you said, that is why this is all still in discussion, because all of those points are being taken into consideration to determine whether or not we do exactly like Aruba did and make it mandatory regardless of where you are flying in from, or we decide to have exemptions for persons that have a sufficient insurance coverage that covers them for medical evacuations from St. Martin. Again, what the public needs to realize is that our responsibility is to protect the reputation of St. Martin when it comes to any incidences that happen from COVID-19, as it did back in March, where we were on the US news, and it appeared as if a person caught COVID-19 while on holiday. So we have to control that negative press for the island. In addition, we have to protect our visitors, and we have to do it in an affordable manner for them so as not to deter them from coming to our shores. And going on to your question regarding the yachting sector, I would like to announce here that today the Marine Protocol has been finalized and it will be published today. The islands and other parts of the world are eagerly awaiting to see what our protocol is for the yachting sector. And the good news is that we are getting a lot of positive feedback that our yachting sector, our season will exist this year. And most people are very keen on coming to the island, especially knowing that in the Mediterranean, their season was basically canceled for the summer. So everyone is, some boats are already en route to St. Martin, and I look forward to welcoming them here on the island and having them contribute to our economy as well as we slowly get out of this pandemic effects. Thank you very much, Dr. Sock, for the question.
Thank you, Minister DeWeaver, as well as Dr. Sock, for the question. We now move on to the second round of questions. Judy Fitzpatrick, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for that. My second question I will direct to the TIAT Minister. Minister, I asked you this last week, but you had to look into it. I'm hoping that you have an update for me today on the status of the timeshare ordinance. A few MPs have requested an update, particularly given the recent Allegria verdict. Can you update us as to what is the status of this? Will it be implemented?
Thank you very much, Ms. Fitzpatrick, for the question and clarification. It is indeed correct that 3 MPs have inquired about this timeshare ordinance that, but when it is unanimously passed, when it was presented by my father, and subsequently some changes were made by his peers, and during that process, it went to His Excellency the Governor Holiday parts of it has to be ratified. There were some issues with the translation of, because it was written in English, so it had to be translated in the language, be specific for Dutch translation. And that is where it is right now. That is the update that I have received from the Ministry of TIAT. And hopefully now that it is back on everyone's, it has the attention of everyone, that we will be able to proceed with it in the right way after it has been left aside for quite some time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister DeWeaver. Thank you, Judy, for the question. Bibi Shah, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolaika. My question will be geared towards the entire Council of Ministers. And I'll address the Prime Minister specifically, and I hope the other ministers, since they're there, if they have something to say, they can answer. Prime Minister Jacobs, as a shareholder rep for Winair, can you tell me if Winair is up to date with paying its creditors, vendors, for example, in St. Bart's? There are a number of court cases looming. For the year 2020, we are in October. Up to now, St. Bart's Winair haven't paid one dime in ATS fees to St. Bart's Airport. They owed over $1 million to the handlers, and they're expecting these companies to write off their debt, claiming that the French government pumped monies into French businesses since the lockdown. Now, I want to know, Prime Minister and the other Council of Ministers, since all of you guys are responsible for government-owned companies, are you aware of this situation at Winair, not paying its vendors? And I would like to know, since the pandemic, did the management board, for example, Cleaver, Gibbs, Boncampo, did they waive their salaries? Did they become good corporate citizens and say, listen, we're in a pandemic, we're not going to accept our salaries like they expect the companies that they're doing business with to do, not write off their debts?
The question being asked is whether the Council of Ministers is aware of every nitty-gritty that is going on within the government-owned companies in general. I can tell you no. We have a meeting. We have been updated from the very beginning from Winair as to their possible future financial challenges. They had already reached agreements with their workers. They had also already had discussions with all their stakeholders prior to, and this was early during the lockdown period. As to their projections. They put forth what their cuts were, and they were in complete compliance with the cuts as proposed by the government of St. Martin. So that was not an issue. What I can say is that with the reduced air flow or air traffic to their main hubs, they have been facing financial challenges and have requested financial injections from the shareholder, which, as you know, we as majority shareholder were unable to provide. The Netherlands, as far as I know, also shareholder has not responded. So there have been letters back and forth, and there is a meeting forthcoming. And when we have more information, we'll be able to update as such.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Bibi, for the question. I would now like to invite Stephen Cyrillian. You have the floor.
Thank you again, Ms. Roach. This time I'll go over to the Minister of Finance. Minister, how far ahead are you in presenting the 2021 draft budget to the Central Committee of Parliament? I think the last time you spoke of that, you said that the budget was sent to the Council of Advice.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Cyrillian. I don't believe I said it was sent to the Council of Advice. The amendment should be at CoM this week for the 2020, and then that would be sent on to the Council of Advice, CFTA, and so forth. The 2021, which is heavily built on the 2020 budget, will come right after. So we'll probably be doing 2 budget debates this year, which will also be sent in the next, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So the main issue was the 2020 amendment, which we have now finalized, and included most or all the conditions that we needed to meet. And right after that, we will be sending the 2021 budget to also be debated in Parliament.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Thank you, Stephen, for the question. I would now like to invite Jeffrey. Dr. Sock-Sokrin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. This is an extremely challenging question for me to ask. I'm going to ask it because I think it deserves to be asked and answered. I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I'd like to direct it to our Honorable Prime Minister, Severia Jacobs, if I might. With all due respect to this Council of Ministers and the entire team that have been working to get us through this extremely challenging times, I think it's safe to say that in all of our careers, there becomes a point in time where, you know, none of the options that we have in front of us are good ones. We don't like any of the choices that we have, and it really comes to picking the least favorable, or the best of the worst, if you will. And it seems to many of our listeners, many business owners, people that I talk to in the street, that it appears that we just aren't making progress with accepting the one option that seems to be on the table in front of us with regard to moving forward with the Netherlands. So we've talked about, is there a plan B, and what are the details, and there doesn't seem to be anything out there except this one option that we have with the Netherlands that we don't like. So how do we get there? How do we move forward? How do we bring businesses together? How do we bring people together? How do we bring our island together so that we can move forward and we can continue to be successful? Because right now it only seems like the option on the table is the one from the Netherlands, and we don't seem to be making any progress. So, Prime Minister, with all due respect, where do we go from here?
Thank you for the question. It's a question we've been dealing with for the past few months, Dr. Sock, members of the media, people of St. Martin. And the weekend's commemoration, the weekend's walk down history makes it even more difficult for us to look at the options ahead of us and say we have no other options. What this Council of Ministers is doing is actually actively seeking the other options. Unfortunately, some of the options require you to still have discussions with a partner that refuses to speak to you to this matter. Let us look at a case of Curacao. If you listen carefully to some of the changes that the Prime Minister has mentioned, they are mainly in the Memorie van Toelichting, the elucidatory or the explanatory notes of the law. And then further into the discussion on the country packages, which Curacao already had an agreement in their Groeia court for these country packages. St. Martin, way back in the day, felt, let's say, held down within the Netherlands of Antilles. We chose to move away from that, to be more autonomous, to move towards self-governance. In our agreements with our kingdom to get here, the CFT and other consensus laws were agreed to. The RFT, which brought about the CFT, and other consensus laws were agreed upon. With no end date, but with a provision that you had to have 3 years of financial, for specifically that one, solvency and whatnot, to be able to be out from under that crux. As you see right now, Aruba is also being pushed to have the same type of must go to the Netherlands for loans, etc. Everyone felt Aruba were being the best students in the classroom, adhering to all of the measures, in fact, leading in the measures, whereby the rest of us were told you have to do the same measures that Aruba has done, even though Aruba's condition prior to the pandemic and Curaçao's and St. Martin, all three of us are different, but we were all being held to the same level as Aruba. We've done our best to comply with these conditions because at the time we had no choice. So we took that tough decision back then. We've taken all sorts of flack for having taken that decision, including from our own civil service, whom we tried to involve in this prior to agreeing to anything. that we had a deal with them on the table prior. We weren't able to secure a deal, and so therefore we agreed to what was opgelegd, what was put forth, what was a must. So here we are today, being told we cannot have any further discussions until we comply with that same second tranche, while Curacao, also not fully compliant, is having the discussions. And then we want to talk about equality in a kingdom. Dr. Sock, St. Martin has fought long and hard for the little autonomy we have. We cannot turn back the hands of time. We cannot continue to go backwards and continue to be subservient. We must find ways, and we believe that open and transparent discussions with the kingdom partners, and specifically with the Dutch government, is necessary for us to do that, but we are being blocked from that. In my recent discussions with the State Secretary discussing the same loan agreement that is maturing, he said, and then it comes across in a manner as if you're being blackmailed once again. That discussion cannot be held loose from the full discussion of the second and third tranche. So the maturity date will arrive and you're not able to have a response. There is supposed to be a meeting this Friday. We are preparing for the meeting this Friday, and then once that meeting is over, we will know from then whether we have to adjust the plans we had with our bonds and loans. So we've heard also from our parliament that we have a unanimous motion to move forward in the sense of sticking to the course. So whilst Curaçao's parliament may have deviated from their first stance, our parliament has not. So as long as we have the support of parliament in this, it makes no sense for us to agree on a political level with something that our parliament will not agree with later down. It does not make any sense. We have options. It is for the Dutch government to decide whether they're going to continue to blackmail St. Martin, push us into bankruptcy, and then be able to lay upon us whatever they like. We are asking for them to be humane in their dealings with the Netherlands. And I know they follow these broadcasts. So while we may not be able to have regular discourses, WhatsApp meetings here and there, Minister of Finance is still having the discussions with the CFT, etc. And again, we see where the CFT is already acting as if the consensus law has been passed, acting outside of their purview. We have to stay the course. We will continue to ask the people of St. Martin to be with us as we move forward, because there are ways for St. Martin to come out of this positively if we only stick together. We are working to garner the loans which is available on the local market. What reason would the Dutch government be able to tell St. Martin, no, you may not borrow on the local market if they fail to subscribe, when they have failed to subscribe as per law? So when they talk about illegal moves, which I heard another media rep ask that St. Martin is making, the Dutch government has moved illegally in not subscribing to the 2019 capital investment loan, which would have seen the financial management improved had that been approved since last year, 2019, since February, when we went there with the Minister of Finance to have those discussions. So you asked a pretty long question, and I apologize for the very long answer, but I believe it is pertinent for the people of St. Martin to know that we're not being stubborn for stubborn's sake, but at some point in time, we have to say enough is enough with the advantage that is being taken of small islands just because we're small. Internationally, we are being looked at, and the Netherlands is being looked at in the manner in which it is treating its former colonies, which by and large, it is clear that the proper decolonization process has not continued. So Parliament will continue on that trajectory, and we will continue on ours to ensure that the people of St. Martin get what they voted for in 2000. Thank you, Mr. Sock.
Minister, I do appreciate the question, or appreciate the answer to a very long and tough question. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Dr. Sock, for the question. Members of the media, I would have to regretfully inform that this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. I would like to inform if there are any further questions, please direct those questions directly to the cabinets of the ministers, who will ensure those questions are answered. for joining us. Honorable Minister of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, October 14, 2020. For rebroadcast, tune into St. Martin Cable TV, Channel 115, St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and the YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, be sure to log in to the official government's website at stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.